Hi guys, James at RampantLionReviews again for you today with another beer review. For this one, we are going to head over to Hong Kong once again, and we're going to have a look at yet another of the beers that I brought back with me from a trip over there. So for this review, we are going to return to a brewery that has featured on the channel once before. The last beer that I had from these guys was really nice, and I did actually have a couple of their beers on tap when I was over there, and these guys always tend to be pretty damn solid in my experience. But the beer we're going to have a look at today is one of their latest releases from what I understand. It's supposed to be very nice, and it's a style that I know these guys can do pretty damn well actually. So needless to say, I'm very curious to see what this one is going to have in store for us. Hopefully it's another good beer. Hopefully it makes for an interesting review, and as always I hope that you guys watching enjoy my take on this one as well. So yeah, for this review then, we are going to go to Pho Tan, which is to the northeast of Kowloon in Hong Kong, and we're going to have a look then at another beer from Heroes Beer Company. So this particular beer is called Kupzzy. It comes in at 7.8% ABV, and this is another New England Hazy Imperial Double, whatever you want to call it, IPA. So yeah, the last beer that I had from Heroes Beer Company was on the channel was a good few years ago actually, but I did try a few of their beers at Carbon Brew's taproom, and we also had one at Second Draft as well, if memory serves me correctly. And yeah, like I say, these guys, very well-rounded brewery, doing lots of different styles, and they're always pretty damn solid actually. So definitely cool to try something new from these guys on the channel for the first time in a good wee while. But yeah, let's crack on with this one then and see what it has in store for us. The Kupzzy 7.8% New England Hazy Double IPA from Heroes Beer Company in Pho Tan. So, as always with my reviews then, I'll tell you a little bit about the brewery before we taste the beer. If you want to get straight to the tasting though, just fast forward. All the usual links can be found in the video description below. That's the brewery website, the link to my other reviews that I've done from Heroes Beer Company before, and we will no doubt add more to that list at some point when we get the chance again. But there's all the usual social media down there. If you want to see more reviews, do please consider subscribing to the channel. The support you give is massively appreciated, and remember you can go into the channel homepage and search for beer using the geography tagging system. So just go into the homepage, use the search bar, put your hometown, state, county, province, whatever you like in there. If I've reviewed beers from the area that you search for, they will pop up. Failing that though, you can check out the playlist of beers from different countries. You'll find this one in the Hong Kong playlist along with a number of other things, and that will be getting added to a few times over the next little while because I still have a few beers to work my way through that I brought back. But yeah, let's go on to my brewery notes then, and I'll tell you once again about Heroes Beer Company. So, Heroes Beer Company was founded by Chris Wong, who's very well known in the HK beer scene, and his childhood friends Jason Lowe and Angus Ip. So the idea behind this particular brewery, or brand I guess we could say in this case, is to produce beers in collaboration with mystery beer enthusiasts who are reportedly questioned extensively about their craft beer passion. But Chris said that the idea is that he felt that the real owners of a brewery are the fans of the brewery, and so it would be nice to give them the chance of a sort of superhero status and let them take part in the brewing process. So as I say, these beers that they produce under the Heroes Beer Company name are all collaboration brews with different beer enthusiasts from across Hong Kong and further afield. But Chris is actually a former accountant who moved to Hong Kong from the US for work, and he went on to found HK Brewcraft, which is where this beer was bought, and then later Carbon Brews. But he was also working for Hitachino Nest Beer. But Jason is another co-founder of HK Brewcraft, and he has a background in finance development and project management, while also serving as president of the Hong Kong Craft Beer Association. He's the general manager of the company and also a certified beer tester and cicerone. But likewise, Angus Ip is a fellow co-founder of HK Brewcraft, and he has a background in software engineering and finance. But the beers are, of course, brewed at the Carbon Brews Brewery in Pho Tan, which is to the northeast of Kowloon, across the water from Hong Kong Island, and Chris Wong is heavily involved in there as well. He was hired basically by Hitachino Nest to kind of run their operation in Hong Kong, from what I understand, and then when Hitachino Nest pulled out of that brewery, I want to say that was 2017 or 2018, they founded their own brand called Carbon Brews, and then they kept up the Heroes Beer Company brand as well actually. So yeah, all the beers are produced basically in the Carbon the Carbon Beers Brewery, and I think, you know, I don't know if you can describe these as a separate company or a different brand or however exactly it's structured, but anyway, Heroes Beer Company and Carbon Brews are very closely related. But as of May 2023, these guys have produced 70 different kinds of beer according to Untappd, and a number of the participants, of course, in these brews are like home brewers, or the beers have been brewed for special occasions, or they're just, you know, really well-known beer enthusiasts. But yeah, the identity of the heroes that take part in these beers is always kept secret, actually, which is kind of interesting. But yeah, that is a very brief history, if you like, of Heroes Beer Company. If you want to learn more about these guys, though, you can check out the brewery website. There are, of course, several bloggers in Hong Kong that talk a little bit about the histories behind these breweries and things like that. And one that I really would recommend you check out is Luigi Drinks. Luigi Corraduzza, a good friend, very, very nice guy, Italian. You know, he's a bit of a legend of the Hong Kong beer scene, so he can probably tell you a lot more about Heroes Beer Company than I can. But yeah, I'll put the link to his Facebook and Instagram in the video description for you below as well. But if you want to learn more about this brewery, as I said, check out the website, follow them on Facebook and Instagram to keep up to date with all the latest goings on, and you can check out the Rate Beer, Untappd and Beer Advocate pages to learn a little bit more about all the different beers that these guys have done too. So yeah, let's go on then and actually have a little look at this beer itself. So I'll let you have a wee look at the artwork on the can before we open this one up. As you can see, it's quite nice. They've got a nice bird there, some guy kind of climbing up on something, and it looks like a train coming out of the mountain or out of the hole or something like that. A bit of crazy artwork on this, but I have to say it is quite nice. Plain silver top on the can there, and it tells you a little bit about the beer on the side here as well. So it says, Kupzzy the Phoenix was born with unparalleled vision, which she used to lead her followers through rains and storms. But the sky is getting darker than ever as a dark force is bringing in unprecedented cyclones and thunder. The only clear path she sees leads her flock into a terrifying cluster of black holes. Time is pressed, and forward is the only way through if they don't want to get wiped out by the storm. She takes the lead and dives into the black hole, only with hope that there is a bright, warm sun waiting for them at the other end. In Time Hazy Double IPA is a beer you should dive into right away. Intense aromas of limes, grapefruit, mangoes and papayas with hints of coconuts. Hazy but smooth and juicy on the palate. Just like a glass of fresh squeezed juice. Drink it fresh and drink it in time. So yeah, I guess maybe the name of this one's actually Kupzzy in Time Hazy Double IPA. I'm not sure. I need to check exactly before we post the video and things. But yeah, like we said earlier, this one comes in at 7.8% ABV, New England Hazy, Imperial Double, whatever you want to call it, IPA, and it was purchased at HK Brewcraft. So yeah, let's get this guy out into the glass then and see what it's all about. Very, very curious about this. Some, as I've said to you on many occasions, there are some really, really good craft beer breweries in Hong Kong these days, and it's great to see. It's great to see more places getting on the craft beer bandwagon, if you like. But yeah, let me just place that here. So yeah. Anyway, you can see this beer is poured pretty much exactly as you would expect from a New England Hazy IPA. So before the head disappears, you can see that it's poured with just under a finger of a frothy, I would say, kind of cream coloured head there. You can see the bubbles. There's a few kind of medium sized bubbles on the bottom there and some bigger ones sitting further up on the head. But colour wise, this beer is quite interesting. I mean, for me, it reminds me a little bit of a kind of mixed tropical fruit juice actually. So remember, the colour of your beer depends on a few things. One, the type of malts that you use. This goes a long way to determining your EBC rating. Two, length of your wort boil is also going to play a role, because the longer you boil the wort, the more the sugars caramelise, and thus you get a darker colour of beer. But any barrel aging that you do or adjuncts you put in will of course affect the colour of your beer as well. But when it comes to New England IPAs, or any kind of IPA for that matter, it's not often that you put too many adjuncts in these things. But the level of haze in this one as well is kind of what you would expect, to be honest. You know, it's a little bit soupier and gloopier, this one, I would say. So remember, the level of haze in a New England IPA depends on the oak content, the wheat content, and to a degree what yeast you use, and it can vary from brewery to brewery and recipe to recipe. There's not really a rule about going up the alcohol scale and stuff like this. Not too much in the way of visible carbonation with this one. A few big bubbles sticking toward the side of the glass, and a few smaller ones just going up toward the bottom of that head there. But yeah, overall, it does look very, very nice. yeah, pretty much as you would expect from a New England double IPA. So I don't think we need to say any more about the appearance of this one. Let's have a wee look at the aroma then and just see what this beer is going to have in store for us. Let's do this. Yeah, that does smell pretty nice. Yeah, because it gives you everything you would want from the style. And for me, I would say this one's a more kind of wheaty and barley malt leaning New England IPA actually. So, as I've often said, there are a number of things you should think about with New England IPAs. For me, there are 6 elements of flavour. So you've got the kind of farmhousey, yeasty elements, you have the kind of rye leaning, grainy side of things, and these are a bit more prevalent in American brewed New England IPAs, I would add, but you've also got the wheaty bitiness, the oaty creaminess, the barley malt bread, and also the sweet side of things as well. So these are the 6 elements that you should look at when analysing a New England IPA, at least in my opinion. But yeah, on the, as I say, on the, on the malty side of things with this one then, we'll break the beer down and just describe it a bit more in depth as we always do. But for me, yeah, this beer gives you a bit of everything. It's leaning more toward the grassy side of things. You've got lots of juicy fruit in there, which you want. Then you've got a nice kind of big malty character as well. So yeah, let's just break it down. The backbone of this beer, absolutely, you've got a little bit of that kind of fresh, white bready bread crust coming out of this one. That is the backbone of the beer, so you can feel that just sitting in underneath. So lovely kind of fresh, white bready bread crust in there. And on top of that, or within that, you get a little bit of a kind of Jacob's cream crackery type note out of this one. And there's a wee tiny little hint of woodiness in there as well, but not too much. I'd say the bread crust is probably the most prominent thing in the backbone of this beer. Then on top of that, you've got a bit of a fluffy, you do have a more kind of fluffy white bready character coming out of the beer, which is really nice. So yeah, really nice kind of fluffy white bready character coming out of this one. And then above that, you have a little bit of a more, you can smell a little bit of the wheat in this one, and the wheat's kind of smoothing out the beer, but you do get a little bit of the bitiness at the back of the nose from the wheat as well, which is kind of interesting. But yeah, the wheat for the most part, for me at least, is kind of smoothing out the beer. It's acting as a little bit more of a, it's acting as a little bit more of a kind of smoothening agent and just giving you that wee bit of bitiness. But the oats in this one are quite interesting as well. So the oats, of course, I've always said this about New England IPAs, oats are usually, the oaty characters in these beers are usually a very good indicator of like how fresh your New England IPA is. So the creamier the oats are, the fresher the beer is, whereas the drier they are, the older the beer tends to be. But yeah, so for me, the nice kind of creamy oaty character you get out of this one is really, really nice. And the you know, you can smell that in the beer, but you are starting to get a little bit of the oaty dryness out of this one. I think this beer is maybe about 3 or 4 weeks old at the point that we're filming this one. So yeah, you're going to start to get a little bit of the kind of dryness out of the oats in this one. So you definitely get a wee bit of that, which is quite nice. Above that though, you get a little bit more of a kind of Werther's Original butter candy, butterscotchy type thing. So there is a slight degree of sweetness to this beer, which I really do quite like as well. Yeah, so aroma wise, this is really nice from that perspective. So yeah, nice kind of creamy oaty characters coming out of this one. And then just a little bit of Werther's Original butter candy, butterscotch on top. And you do expect, you know, when it comes to the double New England IPAs, you do quite often expect a little bit of sweetness out of them, just, you know, to cover up the alcohol that little bit better. But yeah, this one, the malty side of this beer is really nice. The more that I smell of it, the more oats I get out of it. But yeah, you've got quite a lot of barley malt to this one, so I've got a feeling this is going to be quite a bready beer, of course. But let's have a wee look at the hoppy character then and the fruits. So the green component in this one, obviously, there's a teeny little bit of earthiness and herbal character in there. But yeah, you've got a good little bit of floral aromaticity. But I find this one, the green component really leans toward being a more kind of wet, grassy sort of thing actually, which I think is really nice too. But yeah, on the green component, one thing you have to remember with IPAs is that there are 3 different kinds of hoppings you can use in these beers. So assuming you have a 90-minute wort boil, because it's a good example and it's quite common, within the first hour of the wort boil you have early addition hopping, which gives you mainly bitterness. In the latter half hour of the wort boil you have late addition hopping, which gives you a little bit of bitterness but mainly flavour and aroma. And then after the wort boil is complete, you've got dry hopping. West Coast IPAs tend to use all 3, which is why they have this big, deep, dank, kind of piney resinous type quality to them quite often. It's mainly the early addition hopping that does that. But New England IPAs rely on the latter 2, late addition and dry hopping. And that's the reason why their green components are a little bit more kind of, that's why they're a little bit more kind of, how would we say, kind of bright and grassy and things like that. So yeah, that's how it usually translates. So yeah, mainly late addition and dry hopping going on in this beer. But on top of the fruity side of things, on top of the green component in this beer, you have got some really nice fruity characteristics coming out of this one, which is great. But yeah, on the fruity side of the beer with this one, yeah, I think there's been quite a few different hops used in this one actually. I want to say though, I think there's probably Sabro in this one, because you are, like they were saying on the can, you are getting that distinctly coconutty type note out of this one. There's a good bit of orange too, so I'm going to say straight away I think there's maybe Sabro in this one. And I want to say Idaho 7 as well, because of the soft tropical notes. So yeah, but on the fruity side of things anyway, I get a little bit of kind of soft passion fruit out of it. Quite a bit of juicy mango, and then you've got like papayas and apricots and stuff in there, and it's those softer tropical notes that make me want to say Idaho 7. There are of course other hops that could be, it could be, you know, Galaxy, Victoria's Secret, Simcoe would be another option as well. Although Simcoe is mainly passion fruit, I would say. El Dorado would be another one, but anyway. But yeah, so a bit of passion fruit, juicy mango, all of these kind of things, that all goes together. But yeah, the way this beer goes together is really, really nice. As I say, right on the front of the nose, you do get a good little bit of limey character out of this one. That could be, for example, Motueka, perhaps, from New Zealand. It could also be Equinox from the US. There are a few others, but they're not coming into my head at the moment. But one of those two, so there's definitely a wee bit of that juicy lime, and that makes me think it's Motueka from New Zealand. But I'm pretty sure there's Sabro in this one, because you've got this really ripe mandarin-y type orange character, but then you've also got the coconutty notes underneath the fruity character as well. So yeah, the way this beer goes together in that particular regard is really quite interesting. So yeah, I do like how that pieces together actually. Yeah, aroma wise this is really nice actually. Yeah, I think we can leave it at that for the aroma. As I always say though, take a wee bit of time just to enjoy the aroma of these beers before you get stuck into them. But yeah, I think we can have a taste of this one then and see what it's all about. So this one is the Kupzzy In Time 7.8% New England Double IPA from Heroes Beer Company in Photan in Hong Kong. In the new, I guess you would say that's the new territories at that point. But yeah, let's get stuck into this one and see what it's all about. Slàinte, Skål, Gambé. Oh yeah, that's nice. First impression is it's very smooth and creamy New England Double IPA, but it's also got a little touch of oily character to it, but that's pretty damn solid. I wouldn't expect anything less of the Hong Kong brewers these days though, because you know they are very good at what they're doing. So yeah, the way this beer goes together, I think, is really, really nice. Yeah, so where do we start with this one then? Yeah, first impression is really smooth, as I say, really quite smooth and creamy New England Double IPA, but just as we said, this one is it's got a little bit of oily character to it as well. But let's just break it down and go through the flavour as we always do. So middle third of your palate then. Backbone of this beer, you can absolutely feel that lovely kind of smooth white bready bread crust coming out of this one. So that's the backbone of the beer. Further forward on that middle third of your palate, you've got a little touch of a woody character coming out of this one, and also some nice kind of Jacob's cream crackery notes as well. So yeah, that's really nice. It is really nice how that pieces together. That's the backbone of the beer. You do get a wee bit of dryness out of this one, the further into the aftertaste that you go as well. But above the, as I say, above the kind of white bready notes, you do have that nice, above the kind of bread crusty and crackery notes, you start to get that thicker and more dense white bread out of this one. So the bread actually has a hell of a density to it, this one. This is actually quite a thick New England IPA. I really have to say that. So you've got that thick, dense, white bready character in there, and then you can feel the wheat just sitting above it, which is really interesting. So yeah, the thicker, the nice dense white bready note in there. Then you've got the wheaty, the even more dense wheaty character coming out of this one. The wheat, as I suspected it would, acts as a kind of densifying agent in this beer, which is really nice. And then above that, of course, you start to get the oaty side out of the beer. So as you go down the middle line, of your palate, in there, as you go down that middle line of your palate, you've got a nice kind of oaty, creamy sort of thing. And then you can feel as you move out toward the edges of your palate, you just get a little bit more of a kind of, dryness and things just pushing its way out of this one. So yeah, the way that goes together is really quite nice. But yeah, in the dead centre of your palate, you can feel there's a little circle there where you get that kind of Werther's Original butter candy, butterscotchy type note out of the beer. And again, I really like how that goes together too. Yeah, that is nice. Yeah, I think yeah, you get a little tiny bit of like a McVitie's digestive biscuity character in there as well. But to be honest, I think we've covered the middle third of the palate at this point in this review, so I think we can leave it at that. So on the back third of your palate, then on the hoppy side of the beer. So, oh sorry, not on the hoppy side of the beer, on the back third of your palate, the kind of malty and yeasty side of the beer still. So the border region between middle and back third of your palate, again you get a little bit of a kind of bready build up in there. It's got a white bready character, but has a wee bit of brown bready note there as well. You get the bread crust once again, but the bread crust feels a little bit more grainy and dry, of course. And as I've always said, more grainy and dry flavours come out further back on the palate. So this is one thing that you need to watch. And then above that you start to get a little bit of the Jacob's cream crackery in, which feels also quite dry. Then you've got a more dense kind of white bready character coming out of the beer as well, which I really do quite like. So yeah, that dense white bready sort of thing. Then above that you've got the wheat, and you can feel the dense wheat sitting in there. But that bready character is a little bit lighter and more airy. You always get this on the back third of the palate. You can feel that slightly lighter and more airy white bready character coming out of this one. Then you've got the denser wheat just sitting above that, which is again very, very nice. So on the with the wheaty character at the top, you've got that more kind of bitey, wheaty note coming out of this one, which I really do quite like. And then above all of that, you start to get some of the kind of yeasty character pushing its way out of the beer too. So yeah, the yeasty side of things in this one is the yeasty side of things in this beer is really quite nice as well. So you've got this lighter, more farmhousey, airy type red, and a little touch of honeycomb wrapped around it, and wee elements of a kind of woody, crackery sort of thing. But yeah, definitely. Back third of the palate, you can feel the flavour is kind of taller. Then as you come further forward into the middle third of the palate, it just kind of condenses down and squashes together. And yeah, like I say, that is really quite nice actually. Yeah, interesting stuff. I have to say that about this beer. I do find this one quite interesting. But yeah, on the hoppy side of things then, we'll go to the sides of the palate. So back corners of the palate, you've got a nice little bit of earthiness in there. Then as you move further forward, you've got a little bit of herbal character, and as you push toward the kind of front corners of the palate, it's a little bit more floral and aromatic. But it's quite a wet floral aromaticity that you get out of this beer. But yeah, the earthiness and the herbal character are quite minimal. You do get a slightly deeper and slightly more dank floral aromaticity, particularly into the aftertaste. But yeah, you get a little bit of a brighter, wetter floral aromaticity on the front corners of the palate, and then round the front curve of the tongue. It's just a wee bit lighter and more grassy and things too. So yeah, I like how that goes together. That is quite nice. But yeah. Yeah. So on the front third of your palate, then the border region between front third and middle third of your palate, you've got a nice little bit of a kind of bready build up in this one, white bready build up there. Then the base of that front third of your palate, you've got a nice little bit of kind of more grainy bread crust in there, bit of cracker on top of that. Then you've got a smoother and more dense white bready character, and above that you get that nice oily bubble where the juicy fruity esters just roll their way out of the beer. And this is interesting, this one, because the fruits are a little bit more kind of ripe, I guess you could say, than I thought they were going to be from the aroma. So yeah, the back of that front third of your palate, I would say I would say that you've got a little bit of a nice kind of smooth passion fruit there, but quite bright. And as you move further forward from that, you get some really lovely juicy mango characters coming out of this one, which is really nice. So yeah, a little bit of passion fruit, a little bit of a juicier mango, and then as you move further forward into the dead centre of that, into the dead centre of that front third of your palate, you've got a little bit more of you've got a little bit of a kind of apricot-y character sitting underneath, like a dry apricot-y note. A little bit of papaya as well. Maybe on top of that you get a little touch of pineapple too. So the back half of that front third of your palate is all about the tropical fruity notes. But as you move into the front half of that front third of your palate, as I say, I'm pretty sure the tropical hop in this one is likely to be Idaho 7. It's just from experience. There's just something ticking off my my sensors here, if you like. But yeah, further forward from that, you can feel you've got that nice kind of coconutty note in there. There's a bright mandarin-y orange, and then you've also got that big juicy kind of limey character coming out of this one. So I think Sabro, definitely, with the coconutty and orangey notes, and then either Equinaut or Motueka in this one. But with the juiciness of the lime, I'm tempted to say Motueka. I found Equinaut is a little bit more kind of zippy and zesty than this one, to be honest with you. So I think I do think the three hops in this one, probably Sabro, Motueka, and a bit of Idaho 7. I would not be surprised if that's the case with this beer, to be honest with you. But yeah, this is really, really nicely done, actually. And it grows. This is a beer that kind of grows on me a little bit the more that I drink of it. So yeah, this was pretty good. This was a nice choice, actually. I just wanted to pick up a few Hong Kong cans to bring back with me and review, and we've still got maybe another 4 or so, I think, to work our way through. We already did the sour beer that I picked up from Young Master as well, and that was really nice. But yeah, I think we can leave it at that for the flavour side of things for this review. We can round off then with a wee look at the mouthfeel. For me, this beer is kind of top end of mid-bodied, bottom end of full-bodied. Yeah, carbonation is it's very, very smooth in this one. Like I said earlier, this beer has a bit of a creaminess to it, but also a really nice kind of oily character. So yeah, the way that this beer, the way that the beer goes together in that particular sense is really quite nice. So yeah, nice kind of mix of oily character, a little bit of a more kind of creamy note to it as well, as we said. In terms of IBUs, I think this beer is a fairly standard sort of 30 IBU New England IPA. It doesn't feel more bitter than that. Yeah, it's kind of soft and juicy more than anything else. The malt base, as I said, it's got a bit of dryness underneath, a bit of smoothness in the middle, and a wee touch of sweetness on top. And you've got all these juicy, fruity characters, a mix of kind of tropical fruity notes, then a wee bit of a more kind of citrusy, limey type character coming out of the beer as well. But overall, I think this is a really, really nicely done beer, and it gets a big thumbs up from me. So yeah, I think we can leave it at that for this review, to be honest with you. I've really enjoyed this beer, and once again, Heroes Beer Company have delivered, but you know, knowing them and Carbon Brews, I'm really not surprised about this one. But yeah, I think we can leave it there. So this one is the Kupzzy In Time, a New England Hazy Imperial Double, whatever you want to call it, IPA at 7.8% ABV from Heroes Beer Company in Pho Tan in the New Territories to the northeast of Kowloon in Hong Kong. So yeah, once again, thank you for watching my beer reviews. Until the next time, please like, subscribe, share, all the usual YouTube stuff. Let me know your own thoughts on this beer in the comment section below. Let me know what your favourite beers are from Heroes Beer Company as well, and we will no doubt return to these guys again at some point in the fairly near future. But until then, Slàinte, Skål, cheers, thank you for watching. Check out my social media, check out Heroes' social media, and I'll see you guys in a little bitty. Cheers.